scary morning or magical midnight with Tillie here. I'm proud to interrupt your regularly scheduled broadcast to introduce you to my two friends over at On the Trail. Please join us for a new chapter in The Weird Walk Home. Nick Valente, Jerimiah Fountain, the International Dogman Project, and the Quad Coalition of Sciences join forces with The Weird Walk Home. Let's see where the road goes.
Welcome everyone to not just another episode of On the Trail in Search of Living Legends, but we are at a new season. Season 6. Nick, can you believe it's been 6 seasons?
Oh my God, I can't believe it's been 6 seasons. It's really wild.
Crazy.
I mean, the year is 2024 now, and
Yeah.
we have this and we have that other show that we do on Tuesdays, the Cryptid Consortium with Gary Spikes.
Yeah.
But today, I mean, we have a special guest.
Yes,
as everybody can see. No, that's not Barbie, even though she looks like it. This is Tillie Treadwell, and I have a short bio, so everybody grab some coffee, sit back, and I'll just read it to you. Tillie Treadwell is a modern-day author and a paranormal scholar who was born and largely raised in Lake Mary, Florida, though she spent extensive time traveling to the northern states. I don't know why she would do that because it's really cold over there.
Maybe some people like that.
Maybe. Or maybe
love it up here right now because it's freezing.
In search of. Anyway, throughout her life as well, you know, because she's been traveling around. In her own words, she is a conscious experiencer of phenomenon, having had what she fully believes to be personal true encounters with the Mandela effect, wild night crawlers, the Glimmer Man. I love the Glimmer Man. He's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's like the Slim Man, you know, or the Thin Man. UFOs, non-human people such as the Fae, and others, and odd glitches in time. Now that's an interesting thing we'll have to touch on. She's had all this since toddlerhood. She considers herself a persistent, passionate, multidisciplinary student and believes that it is her life mission to note patterns and ties between the subjects she studies in order to use her observations, philosophies, and theories to assist those interested in creating their own life formulas that achieve their personal heavens on earth. That's an interesting quote.
I guess the Barbies are useful for something.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And we still have a couple more pages here, guys, so hang in there with me. In past years, Tillie co-headed a paranormal investigation and exorcism team in blessing with leadership from the Catholic Church, worked as an independent energetic healer, tarot interpreter, and intuitive medicinal nutritional advisor in cooperation with local naturopathic and allopathic medical staff for her clientele. Today, and since retiring from her previous full-time spiritual social ventures, Tillie often quietly advises behind the scenes on books and YouTube channels, but as of May 2023, decided to come into the light writing with Sean Castile and Tim Schwartz for Zontar Press on an upcoming book about time anomalies. Now, that's something that you and I have touched on, Jay, in the past.
Yes, it is.
And high strangeness, which is something we always touch on. Tillie Treadwell and Tim Schwartz have also begun a new YouTube show, The Weird Walk Home, which explores the paranormal from a Fortean point of view and hosts many interviews with notable guests on related subjects. She is keenly interested in appearing on other shows and contributing to other books as of August 2023 and beyond. She's an avid reader and a writer and a lover of communication and storytelling. Lady Treadwell currently resides in a Lake Mary cottage with her husband, Artemis. Am I pronouncing that right?
Artemis.
Artemis. And her Maine Coon cat. Ooh.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, big one?
She's only about half Maine Coon, so she's around half the size. So she's got all of the floof, all of the attitude, all of the screaming capacity, but only half the size, thankfully.
Wow. And her name is Evie.
Yeah, big.
And both of whom routinely experience high strangeness. Excuse me, folks. I am sick. One of those rare moments for me. I don't usually get sick, and wow. Anyway, Tillie is available for cooperative media or cooperative business opportunities via private email requests at oh my God, talktillietome@gmail.com. And there you go.
Tillie to me at gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a play off of the old, well, I shouldn't say old, I'm sorry, the classic song Talk Dirty to Me by Poison.
Okay.
Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Uh-oh, I lost
Good song.
Let's click on that. All right, there, I'm back. All right, I can see everything now. And I want to add, she didn't put this in her bio for me, but I want to add that Tillie is our guest correspondent writer for the Quad Coalition of Sciences. And she also sent me one on Dogman, which I'm going to be placing in all of the Dogman groups for everyone's perusal, along with the Quad Coalition of Sciences. Tillie will be writing for us on the paranormal, basically. But the one she did on the Dogman is paranormal related. And it would be good for all the members to check out this article. And I'll be putting them in all the groups, all 19 of them, Jay. So yep. I have my work cut out for me.
Yep, we are growing. That's for sure.
So Tillie, since you started all this when you were a young person, like what, 4, 5, 6 years old, something like that?
Actually, I do think a little bit earlier with the quality of the memories and what I do seem to remember. However, first I would like to say I think you did a fantastic job at struggling through my chapter-long bio. I appreciate that. And soon I will be adding even more to it because I will be acknowledging that I've joined your team, and I'm very happy to be here. I'm so excited, and thank you so much.
We're happy to have you. I mean, I want to get some
great to have you.
Yeah, somebody in the paranormal.
As we got almost all the fields covered. We got our Dogman specialist, the Sasquatch specialist, paranormal specialist. We just need an extraterrestrial.
I gotta get some UFO specialists, and I mean I can do the in Quad Coalition. I can do the zoology part. That's not a problem.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But so you actually knew of your gifts back when you were like maybe 3 or 4, then even younger than 5 and 6.
Well, truth be told, I seem to have memories of being in the little carrier and having experiences. Wow. So if you'd like to hear about that, I have an encounter where I was lifted up out of my body from the little tote carrier that you use to put the infants in the car.
Right.
Lifted up out of my body by what I can only describe as being the spirit of the moon. And this was she was the full moon. She presented herself to me as the full moon, and she had lifted me up, and she gave me, she wrapped me in a blanket, and she told me that she knew that I was here to do some pretty wonderful, heavy things, and she appreciated it. And she asked me if there was anything that she could do for my comfort or for my better care here on Earth. And me being an infant at this time, I didn't understand what's going on. I just had this big moon lady holding me. And so I started to cry and she put me back, and I remember being frightened and jarred enough that I was crying for a good long while. And my parents and family members who were around couldn't soothe me. So that was, I think, my very first experience ever. And I don't know how old a baby would be in such a carrier, but pretty young.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean,
So
6
this
months,
was
maybe a
Hmm.
year, 6 months to a year old, maybe
I would
in
say
a carrier.
younger than a year.
Yeah.
I was an
Yeah.
infant. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
this was an out of body experience then.
Yeah.
Hmm. It was.
Mhm.
It was. And I hadn't been sleeping at the time. I remember just enjoying my pacifier. That's like the only thing that I can really remember is just enjoying the beautiful pacifier in my mouth and being comforted by the blanket that was wrapped around me and looking up at the ceiling fan that was spinning on the ceiling. And then I was just out of my body.
Wow. That is something. And many decades ago, I read a book by Hans Holzer, and he was talking
Yeah.
about out of body experiences, and it can be dangerous because you may not be able to get back in,
There's
and the things
something
that are out there may not let you get
exactly.
back in, and they may take you. So yeah, that
Exactly.
out of body experience is something that's quite dangerous, folks. So don't really try this on your own.
Right. That's for
I
sure.
do concur. There are lots of stories too of non-human people being able to vibrate human beings out of their bodies. And there are old tales from the fairy legends which state that if someone is said to be amongst the fairies, their soul has been snatched from their body.
Mm, wow. That's a legend from the Fae type.
Mhm.
Okay.
Indeed.
Wow. What other now you mentioned non-human entities. Now I know you mentioned the Fae, but have you ever heard of any other non-human entities that our viewers might have heard of in the past that could also do something like that?
I believe that it is mostly the fairy folk and the so-called aliens that
Okay.
are prone to do this. I I understand mostly though that the earth elementals, the so-called demons and the jinn, they can't remove someone from their body in my experience and understanding. They do, however, take the actual life force out of
Right.
someone's body and their auric field, and that can cause someone to become quite ill or even pass away over time. Very
Yeah.
different, though. The Fae and the aliens, quote unquote, I have a lot of tales, though, that have said that they instantaneously can take someone out of the body, not killing them. The body remains in a strange homeostasis. It's an empty
Mhm.
vessel at that point, but the person is actually gone up in vibration out of this physical body for a
So it's
time.
kind of like when someone astral projects, it
Mhm.
leaves the body in a certain state, leaving it vulnerable actually
Yeah,
to
yeah,
negative energies and negative entities. Correct?
yes. Indeed, it very well could be. I don't necessarily call non-human people who harm human people, though I don't necessarily call them negative myself or
Okay.
bad or anything, because good and bad and negative and positive, that's really all just a matter of personal perspective. That's
Sure.
how I understand it. So I would, for this is just for myself, I say that non-human people who prey on human people can be called hunters, predators, parasites, that type of thing. But everyone's
Absolutely.
got to eat, you know? Like you eat
Hey,
steak,
sure.
something right.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you,
And
Nick? You like a good steak?
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm having a little trouble here getting back on the picture. Oh, here it is. Okay.
you all right?
Here we go. I got you guys again.
Oh,
Okay, good.
Blanked out for a
Good.
second.
You're right, Tillie. It is a matter of perspective, from varying from individual to individual and their past experiences, so on and so forth.
Tillie, something our audience might relate to a little bit easier because a lot
Sure.
of them are not into the Fae or things like that. Have you had any experiences with UFOs?
I have had several, actually.
Oh,
There we
Mm-hmm.
go.
Let me see. The latest one that maybe would have the most meaning or the most impact to share was last summer. My husband Artemis and I were outside. We were having ourselves a lovely little bonfire. We
Mhm.
were roasting hot dogs and just having a nice time. We like to pull up apps like Sky Map or Sky Safari if and either of you gentlemen are familiar.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. We love to skywatch and we pulled up the apps. I was looking beyond the fire and I saw what the app was saying was Venus. And everything was all well and good. So after looking around at the sky with the app, I put it down for a moment. And then all of a sudden, I was just hit with this awareness that I was being watched and examined, and
Mm.
that someone was intimately with me. And I felt like they were right in front of my face almost. But of course, nothing was there that I could see. Well, I felt like I needed to greet this person. And I did. I said, hello, it's nice that you're here. Thank you for visiting me. Just good intentions and acknowledgement. And I just had the thought that I wanted to know who this person was that was so interested in me. And I got the instantaneous answer, Venus. And so my eyes immediately went up to Venus, which by this point was pretty high up above the trees.
Yeah.
And um, I got the intuition that I needed to just watch. As I was watching, it slowly began to pull back away from its position, and I could see it plainly with my eyes. And I asked my husband, I'm like, honey, can you see this? And he said, what are you talking about? I pointed at Venus. I said, Venus is in literal retrograde. It's going backwards. And that shouldn't make any kind of sense. We
Right.
went around to the other side of the fire because we wanted to make sure that it wasn't like heat waves playing tricks on my eyes or something. And we both stared up. Sure enough, what had been stationary there in the sky was pulling slowly back, and we were both able to witness this. No
Wow.
binoculars, anything of that nature. And we pulled up my sky map again, pointed it up, and it said Venus. It showed no movement anywhere on the screen, completely still. And we thought that perhaps there was a glitch or something. And we pulled up his sky map just to double check. No, they showed the same exact things. My husband and I just stood there in complete awe and we watched as Venus completely pulled back and down in the sky and disappeared from where it had risen
Wow.
and gone the rest of the evening that we were out.
And that was the latest experience you've had. It was,
That is the most impactful one. It's not the most
okay.
recent, but it's the most
Okay.
impactful
I
one in
got
the
you.
recent past. Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, what do you guys
Wow.
think of that? What do you make of that?
I think
That's
I'm in agreement with you. I mean, it's there's really no explanation. I mean, like you were saying, it's definitely wild.
that's an
That's for
encounter
sure.
of a fourth kind. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Is it?
yeah, totally
I think
amazing.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so all right, that was UFOs. Any experiences with say Dogman, Sasquatch, Mothman, anything like that? Any cryptid experiences?
None, none firsthand like what you are inquiring about. I I did not have any direct experiences with them. No. I can say, however, that I was assigned to a case when I was working with the Catholic Church where a man reported having lots and lots of high strangeness all around his woodland property. And
Okay.
then it had been at a relatively low and stable amount for years. But then for some reason, it picked up within a 6-month period. And that's when he called in the church. He just couldn't take the escalating frequency and all of the activity. Nothing negative was happening. He was just incredibly intimidated. And I can't say necessarily that I blame the guy.
No.
Called us in, and we were taking a tour of the property. This took place in Northeast Ohio, by the way, on
Okay.
some private land.
Hot
Mhm.
spot for cryptid activity, anyway.
Indeed. He owned a large pine woods, and within those pine woods, there was a smattering of some really lovely old oak trees. And he took us out to the Oak Grove area, and he stood us about 50 feet, maybe a little bit less away from a certain extra large, extra healthy oak tree. He pointed at it and he said, "The final straw for me to call someone in was the fact that I was out here." And he said that he was just doing some random woodland chore or whatever. And he said, "I saw a Bigfoot somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall, and
Mm-hmm.
it was massively muscular and hairy. And I watched it walk face first into that oak tree right over there and was absorbed into the tree."
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've researched that exact same phenomena.
Yep.
Really?
Read a lot
Yep.
about that, about where the tree is actually a portal for other dimensions.
Portal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I mean, this is just not, in that area where your friend was, but I mean, there's many places in the United States where this has actually taken place.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I've said this many times. Physicists have said that there are like 11 different dimensions out there, and who's to say that other beings can't travel them,
Yeah.
via portals? I mean,
Absolutely.
now,
I
was he being bothered, Tilly, by mind speak or anything like that?
Nothing like
no,
that.
there was nothing negative going on. Um, he was a pretty religious dude, and I think from everything that he told me, everything that I saw there, there was no one bothering him. He was just
Mm.
afraid because the
Sure.
activity had picked up and he started seeing stuff that the church had told him was demonic, firstly. And then also, he was a pretty big, burly guy himself. And so seeing the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch, if you will, I think intimidated him and kind of knocked him out of the belief that he is top of the food chain.
Yep.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah,
Believe me.
yeah.
Did he have any experiences of infrasound? I mean, I know you said no mind speak, but infrasound maybe, because you said there was some sounds that or something that was going on that caused him to contact the church.
No, it was just everything that he was seeing, and then noises like things falling off of a shelf on the other side of the house, or
Mm.
seeing like a shadow person, or what seemed to be like maybe could be a little house brownie or a gnome occasionally. It was that kind of stuff, really. But there was nothing nefarious going on. He even said so. I asked him if there were any like negative voices that he was hearing, changes in his mood or anything like that outside of when he witnessed these things, any strange, unnatural sounding frequencies, noises, etc. There was nothing. It was nothing. He was
Wow.
just freaked out. And
Sure.
so I wound up helping him to learn how to set healthy boundaries with these types of people. And I walked him through what these non-human people had communicated to me, and with those pieces of information helped him to claim his house and the yard around it as a safe space only for him. And as far as I know, that solved it. I mean, he
That
wasn't
did.
disrespectful towards the other people who were living there. They weren't disrespectful towards him. It's just that a lot of the time, unless space is claimed, non-human people are accustomed to inhabiting wherever, whenever. And so they pop him in and out wherever they see fit and enjoy it.
Right.
Does
Well,
that
that's
make sense?
rude. That's
Yeah.
quite rude. I mean, really. My house. I didn't invite you in. Okay, out comes the salt. Out comes the sage. Out comes the holy water.
Yeah.
I got a water pistol full of holy water. So
Oh my
Just
gosh.
out of curiosity, Tilly,
Sure.
not to get off the subject here, but did he give you a description of the Sasquatch?
Yeah, so he said that the Sasquatch was somewhere between 7 and 8 feet tall. He could
Right.
see that it had extremely muscular looking arms, and it had kind of like oh, how do I explain this color? Kind of like an orangish, reddish, brownish fur.
Auburn, like an auburn color.
Auburn, thank you. Yes, but it was like a bright color. It was
Yeah.
pretty bright.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he said that it was shaggy.
Okay.
And he
Yep.
said that he didn't see it face on. He saw it from the side and then the back.
Gotcha.
So there's no
Okay.
facial description. It's just everything
Okay.
else, basically. Yeah,
Just curious. Yeah.
sure, sure.
Yeah. So this is a pretty active area with a lot of different phenomena going on.
Mm-hmm.
But we find that Nick will tell you, we find that all the people we've interviewed over the years, and that's typical. And you know that as well as we do. That's typical. All these different types of phenomenon all coming together at once. There's a correlation somewhere in there.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
there's a correlation. I mean, there's got to be for 95% of the people we interview. Talk about seeing orbs or some
right.
type of craft in the sky before, after, or during a Sasquatch or Dogman encounter. So there's got to be some type of correlation there.
Yes. Yeah, I do believe that there is. And I think that the answer may lie in quantum sciences
Yes, I agree.
because I believe from what I've experienced that we are all family and that we all just vibrate at different rates and have
Right.
different densities, and that those vibrations and densities can determine a lot about us, say our genetics,
Sure.
our natural psychology, what we can see, what we can't see, what we can hear, experience, etc. And even down to the diet that is necessary. But that doesn't mean that we're not all somehow interconnected and that we're not all family of some sort. That's just my
Right.
opinion, though. Don't listen to
Right.
me. I'm just a chick in my nightgown in front of the Christmas tree, and I could be crazy, so don't listen to me. Probably. There's my
Listen,
disclaimer.
you're crazy, we're crazy too. So don't
Yeah,
worry. Don't worry about that. We're all nuts.
yeah,
Yeah. People sometimes think I am crazy because I go out with a team and we go 20, 25 miles into a 200 square mile, area in search of cryptids that were reported there. And we're trying to, collect evidence. So yeah, they think I'm a little off too, but
Yep. No biggie there.
I get to take the guys with me because I tell my boss they need training in a desert area or a forest area. And he
yep.
goes, yeah, good idea. I'm glad I'm the training officer amongst other things. And it does
Helps out.
help because I'm not afraid to go out there alone, but I'd rather have backup with me
Absolutely.
Sure.
and more eyes out there, the better. And it's fun. It's fun going around out there. Um,
Oh, I bet. And the squirt gun of holy water doesn't fix everything, so why
no,
not?
Right.
that's why I have white salt, I have black salt, I have the sage, I have the squirt gun, I have flashbangs, I have other types of armament,
Yeah.
firearms and the like. Believe me, you throw a flashbang out with 12 bangs and 12 light explosions.
Yeah.
Uh, that's bound to blind whatever's out there.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a
Sure.
mountain lion or a 8-foot grizzly bear. It's still going to have an effect on it. And if it is a cryptid, I'd really like to see what effect it would have on them.
Yeah. So do you think that all of the non-human people, Nick, do you think that they're all out to get human people?
I don't think they're out to get. I think they're just out to exist here. And
Gotcha.
I think they are smart enough to know that if they, and I've said this before on other shows, I think they're smart enough to know that if they started to kill humans or, mutilate them and stuff, and we found enough, that the governments of the world would go after them and eradicate them. They would try. I think they're smart
Yeah.
enough to know that. So they do try to, I don't know, there's a better word than live in harmony with us, because they're not living in harmony.
But
But
they can get ugly, Nick. Right? I mean, but they can get ugly. These,
yeah.
Sasquatch, Dogmen, they can get they can pull an attitude.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
depends
Yeah.
on what, when you're coming upon them or where
What
you are.
type?
I mean, if you're near a dogman's burrow
Oh
and he
yeah.
has little ones in there,
You're in
you're going to
trouble.
protect them. Sasquatch the same way.
Yeah.
I truly believe that, Jay, that one case I gave to you in upstate New York,
Oh God.
we had a 8-foot log, or a tree branch, whatever you want to call it, thrown at us. I believe we were closing in on something that Sasquatch did not want us to close in on.
Yep.
And like I said, that lady was wrong. She didn't have a dogman problem. She had a Squatch problem. That's the
Oh,
15-footer I was telling you about.
15 feet.
She took a picture, Tillie, of her backyard, and she got the eyes, and it was 15 feet off the ground, the
15
eyes.
feet. It's the biggest
And
one I've ever heard of. One of
we
them.
measured it. Now in Alaska, there have been known to have 15-footers over there.
Yeah.
I think Carter Bouchard, I think he has that in one of his books. And
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
couple other authors out there that have mentioned that. Because Alaska, I don't know, for some reason they got giant things. I mean, look at polar bears, 12 feet,
Big
13
bears,
feet.
sure.
big grizzlies, big polar bears. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
I was asking about your opinion because every case that I've ever worked where there's been a problem with human people and a non-human people relationship or
Mm,
cohabitation, I've actually it's been the human people that have been the problem every
I
single time.
agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
oh, well, let's look at it this way. I'm a human person. I'm about 5'10", 200 pounds, and I come upon a Sasquatch who is 9 feet tall,
Mhm.
700 pounds, and
Yeah.
very scary looking. Now, I mean, of course, I'm going to be like, oh, okay. I mean, first thing I'm going to do is take out my bear spray, and second thing I'm going to do is have my rifle pointed at it if it wants to come near me. Third thing I'm going to do is calmly talk to it and say, I'm going that way. You can stay where you are. I'm not trying to take your food, because that's
Cool.
another thing. That's another thing, people. I mean, I've researched that, and I've interviewed people, and in reference to Sasquatch now. And the fellow came upon a Sasquatch. He actually saw it, and it was feeding on a deer, and whatever else it was pulling out of the ground, some kind of a, it looked like cottontails or something like that. I guess it's edible, the inside of that.
Yeah.
But he said
Oh,
that angered the Squatch.
cattails.
Cattails, yeah.
You can eat the bottom of them. They're like it's
Oh,
like a
okay.
celery.
All right. Well,
Wow.
that's
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, he came upon that. I mean, he was alone. I mean, he was out hunting, and Squatch didn't like it and let out a roar, and he backed away. He didn't take his eyes off of it, but he backed away and kept backing away. And he said he was glad he didn't trip and fall on the ground, because that would have been,
Gosh.
that would have really caused him to panic. Let's put it
Yeah.
Yeah.
that way.
So the non-human people experiences, most of my cases were domestic, but there were a fair number that had to do with the woods, where there were some
Okay.
negative experiences for human people. And when I went out to investigate, because I was the intuitive co-lead, they'd often toss me at the edge of the woods by myself to walk and communicate with these people, talk with them. And I've seen some pretty wild non-human people and had conversations with them, and they say that they can pick up the human intent a lot of the time from
Yeah.
quite a while away, and that if a human person has entered the woods, say with the intention of hunting and or jumping to violence or defensiveness first, I'm not saying that this is for all of them. I'm just saying this is my experience. They
Right.
say that they return that same energy to that human person. And so they gave me the message to ask human people that when they come into the woods, announce to yourself and just say, "Hi, I'm here to hunt some deer." Or, rabbits or pheasant or whatever the case may be. I'm not here to cause any trouble. I don't mean to stumble upon anything that I'm not meant to see, and I mean no kind of harm. If we could please just enjoy our days separately, that would be phenomenal, and that would solve the problem. And it did indeed seem to solve the problem. But then I
Mm-hmm.
have domestic cases where the human families or people in question were saying that, "Oh, I have a demon in my house and it's tormenting me and all of this." And I would get the story from the human family, and then I would go by myself and I would talk with a non-human person. Most of the time, it turned out that the human people were actually lying about a lot of things. They were a lot of the time alcoholics, drug addicts. They were
Mm-hmm.
abusive towards other people, and they had a very low vibration. And so those non-human people were there to feed off of the free food that was being given out.
Sure.
And they said, "Holy water isn't going to work on me. There's no such thing as praying me away. These people have to remedy what they are doing to put out this energy that I and we feed off of, and then we will go find someone else."
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
it's very interesting. I mean, it's like how do I say this? Like for example, like what you're saying, like they say a filthy house or a filthy habitat living environment can be almost like a conduit for demonic energies, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's
So
exactly
that's
it.
kind yeah,
That's
yeah, I
exactly it.
understand. I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I had come across several non-human people who were there to be parasitic. They
yep.
would hide in people's like laundry piles, dirty laundry piles and whatnot, and
Good.
we're just sitting there waiting. I know, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
nasty for us?
yeah,
Oh, Lord.
But it was an energy store for them and it was free food
sure.
for them. It would sustain them coming here more physically while they were laying in wait for the family to have some type of fight or fallout, or for someone to start drinking or have a depressive mood. And then they would come in, and they were not, by the way, they were not eating the auric field or the life force of the people. That was reserved for people that for human people that they had a real vendetta against, like someone that they actually
Mm,
personally hated, which was incredibly rare. They would just sip off of the energy at the edge of the auric field that was being put out. So you've got our physical body, and then you have the energetic and the auric field, and then it bleeds out of the edges even more, and that's what they would take off of. And so it would benefit them to amp up the energy more, so that's why they would knock things off of a countertop or tip like a crucifix off the wall or something, because it got
right.
a response, and it
Sure.
gave them more food. And they said, not only do we feed on this, but for us, it is morally justifiable and morally healthy because that's what these people are doing. And we don't bother people, human people, who are living good, high quality, high vibration lives, who are kind
Right.
and loving and fair and objective and not very religious and not very political. Well, we leave them alone entirely, morally and vibrationally, because we can't even eat that food source that they're putting
Wow.
on. Yeah. So I hope that makes sense. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk.
Oh no, that was very interesting. Yeah, that makes total sense.
Cool.
Um, no, as far as the Fae, have you any direct experience with the Fae or any, you know, you know what I mean? Direct, do you have any good, any you can share? Yeah, thanks,
Sure.
mate.
What what type of encounter are you looking for? Are you looking for a domestic encounter or something more wild?
Maybe something a little more wild, maybe.
Sure. Uh, Let me rack my brain for a second. There are quite a few. Okay, so I would like to make a distinction here that there are two types of fae, as I understand. The first one is the type that lives here on Earth organically, just in a slightly higher vibration.
Right.
And then there's another type of fae, you could say, that reside in the fourth or the fifth dimension, you could say, or as human people may understand it. And those are the types of people who get mistaken for the jinn and aliens, etc. But
Okay.
they are biologically, genetically separate, but it's understandable, I think, that human people would mistake them all. I mean, they can
Absolutely.
look, yeah, they can look and act in very, very similar ways. Um, but then, so the Fae who live at about the 3.5 dimension, as I call it,
Yeah.
they tend to be like the forest guardians, the gnomes,
Yes.
like the house brownies, those types of people.
Yeah.
I had to work a case where it was woods, and it was a public park technically, and it was right on the edge of some woods. It was a playground for kids, and there were reports of shadow people and whistling being heard in the woods, and weird voices and lights in the woods. Just a nice mishmash of everything.
Sure.
And this playground was technically owned by the city or the state, I can't recall which, but it was attached to a school that happened to work closely with the Catholic Church and local Catholic charities. And there were so many reports of this over the years that people were starting to post online photos of the swings swinging by themselves or catching shadow people occasionally on the playground equipment, and then of course seeing the lights in the woods. There was footage of it just from like multiple families and people. They wound up calling us in, and we tended to go out and do these investigations in the woods or around the woods more towards late afternoon going into dusk. It just seemed to be the best time for me to talk to these non-human people. We went, and I was walking around with the team getting a feel of the playground and the land, and we were, well, I don't handle electronic equipment myself. It's not my forte. I am not
Yeah,
tech savvy.
me
You
either.
either. Yeah, you get it. So I wasn't allowed to touch anything, but my teammates, they handled all of that. And it was just my job again to say what I was hearing, feeling, seeing, picking up, all of it. And often they would get correlation from the instruments that they were using, cameras, FLIR, all of that fancy stuff. What is it? Electromagnetic readers and whatnot. So they had the good stuff. And I was walking over by the edge of the woods, and we were taping and doing everything that we normally did. I started to feel like someone was there with us, and that they were watching us, and that they were not happy with my teammates. And when this happens, it's my job to protect my teammates. And so I said, hey, guys, I need to do this part on my own. So I am diagnosed as being highly neurodivergent, and I am diagnosed as having a slightly different eye structure, which is why my eyes might look a little funny to someone here. And um, these come in handy because I happen to be able to see more. So my eyes, the doctors have said, have not developed the thicker lens that people do around 8 years old. And so with this, and then the neurodivergence that I have, it seems like I relate a lot more to many non-human people, but I can also see them. And so a lot of the time, also because of the neurodivergence, I'm not coming to these situations in fear or defensiveness or ready to hurt someone or anything like that. I'm there to have a conversation on equal terms and see what I can broker for all parties involved. I sent my team away and I introduced myself and I asked how they were feeling about my team being there and what we could do to make everyone happy here. And although a lot of the time these non-human people wouldn't appear to me in a physical form, sometimes they would give me, you could say, like a holographic projection that I could see at times.
Okay.
Or they would give me a drop into my mind where I could see it. Or sometimes they would show up as a shadow or a light. I was on the edge of these woods and we were talking, and this person essentially told me that they were the forest guardian and that human people would consider them to be like a fairy person, and that they had been here since before, long before this town had been even here, and that they and the other people who were there and non-human were very upset that the Catholic Church was coming in and try to call them evil and say that they were there to hurt the human children and things like that, when really the human people had been coming in and trashing their woods and just being very, very rude and disrespectful on their terms. And there had been talk about cutting down the woods there, and that they were
Oh,
also really upset about that.
sure.
Yeah, so I got to the bottom of what was going on. I had brokered the deal that all of the non-human people would not go onto the playground or leave the forest between certain hours. So essentially during the daytime and until the sun fully set, because that's when the park was closed. But then from that time until dawn, the park and the lands fully belonged to them. And that
Wow.
as long as these two realms kept separate, there would be no problem anymore. And afterwards, I was chatting with this forest guardian, and they gave me a projection. And I say they, not because this person was necessarily plural in ego, which is a whole different explanation, but because it had no gender. And they, I
Okay.
think, is more respectful than it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they gave me a projection from the shadows of the forest, and they waited until my team had stopped watching my back, seeing that I was fine and safe. And this person presented as having a scaly body, kind of like you know how they depict mermaids having big scales, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So this person had a scaly body, a scaly humanoid body with longer arms, very, very pale, very white, longer fingers with longer pointed fingernails. I think if I remember properly, there were only 4 fingers on each hand, no thumb. And they had like really sharp eyes, like this, really sharp almond eyes,
Yeah.
really exotic looking, with kind of like a snub nose with tiny slits, very thin mouth with a beautiful fringe of long eyelashes, and
Mm-hmm.
the skin kind of shimmered. Um, the chest had no breast, no pecs, anything like that, just perfectly flat with a
Wow.
teeny tiny waist and a thick, full head of wild, shaggy, dark brown, blackish hair, but massive, massive deer antlers and
Oh,
super
wow.
pointed out, yeah, super pointed, long ears. But this person said that um, they could not come out into sunlight. They could not eat most of the foods there, that they could only eat the berries there in the forest, or in the woods, I should say. I'm sorry. Yeah, so they gave me a lot of neat details, and this person said that they don't mind at all if I tell anyone about this, as long as I don't tell anyone where they live. And I've kept
Right.
this promise
It's
for
good.
all of the years. I will never tell anyone.
Good.
But yeah, so that was like, if they had to choose a form to come here physically and manifest, that would be their chosen form, they told me.
Okay.
But that otherwise, they are considered here. They would just look typically like a ball of light, which is their original form, or like a darting shadow.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Interesting. That kind of blows me away. That form, the form you described, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
Now, Tillie, in your bio, you said something about
yeah.
Zimmerman. What was that? What was that about? That would be interesting.
Oh my goodness. Well, a few years ago, my hubby and I were renting a house that was in some interesting land area. We we knew that we were going to be near, I think it was a state park. I can't remember if it was a state or national park here in Florida. I don't want to give out the exact area though,
Yeah.
just but we rented this really really nice house and we got it for a phenomenal price. Right out the back door was a pond and everything. It was just beautiful. And then we were 10 minutes away from this gorgeous park. Well, as my bio says, I used to be a tarot reader, healer, all of that good stuff. And I was fulfilling someone's request one day. This was during the afternoon. This was like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the summer. So it's bright outside. It was a sunny day. There were no storms that were supposed to be coming. There was no noise. It was perfectly silent and peaceful as I was sitting at the kitchen table doing this reading. And as you see, I have trees up. We have trees up in our houses wherever we live all year round. They're not decorated for Christmas all year round because I love the forest atmosphere. Well, we had at this point a tree that was near the front door. And so outside of doing these types of things, I am just a stay-at-home wife. I live a very peaceful, happy life. That's just my whole job is just to be a wife. Well, I was just doing this reading for fun and for some extra cash. The tree by the door, I've never had anything bother me with that tree in particular. And I was able to just kind of like lean over and see the tree if needed. And I was recording at the time this reading, and I heard all of a sudden kind of like a rustling of that tree, and it took me by complete surprise. So I was like, "Hello, is anyone there?" I'm used to things happening, so it doesn't bother me too much. But what took me by complete surprise is that when I leaned over and peered down the house, there was, I would say, somewhere between 5 foot and 5.5 feet tall. It looked exactly like the predator camouflaging in the movie series, if you're
So like
familiar.
Right.
cloaking itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I could not tell if this person was coming out of this faux tree or somehow had just like gotten a little bit tangled up or was trying to get my attention. I still don't know.
Wow.
This person didn't want to talk to me. Instead, they were like they ran, it looked like they ran down. It was a humanoid shape, ran down my hallway towards my craft room and the bathroom that was on that side of the house into that darkened part of the house.
Uh-huh.
And that took me by complete surprise. I've never had an experience like that before. But then also, this was the same house where I had a pale crawler experience in my backyard, several UFO experiences, um, a strange owl experience, which I do think was a non human person pretending to be an owl there. And then my husband, 2 weeks later, we were in bed and we were, well, I was exhausted, so I was drifting off to sleep. This was around 10 o'clock p.m. We had the bedroom door closed, but you know how there's always like that crack of light at the very top. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect.
Okay, cool. there's the crack of light at the top, and my husband was still sitting up in bed, and he was watching some TV. He saw movement at the top corner where that light was coming through.
Mhm.
And so this is what he told me. I didn't see this myself. He watched it and he said it looked like a heat wave, a ball of heat wave that was going like this across the crack of the door. And he said that it like froze and kind of just faded back out, like it sucked itself out through the door crack when he like looked up and realized that he was seeing something unusual. And so he like reached over and he shook me fully awake. And he's like, I saw it. I know what you're talking about now. That is the weirdest freaking thing I think I've ever seen. I don't think you're kidding now. I really believe you. So yeah, we each had an experience. We wound up moving out of that house though, as soon as we could within I think it was like 7 months, because the stuff that was happening there, it was even too much for me.
Wow.
It was really wild energy kind of stuff that I'm not even used to dealing with. Like non-human people that didn't want to talk to me. They didn't want to communicate. They just wanted to stare at us or watch us. It was very strange. I've never had stuff like that happen before. Usually the non-human people communicate with me, not the Glimmermen and not the Nightcrawler.
That's what
Never
I want to hear about next. Can you give us some details on that?
On which one, huh?
The crawler incident. What happened there?
Sure. Absolutely. So this was again, I think, yeah, this was like 2 months before our lease ran out, I believe. I'd have to check my calendar for exact dates.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a few months before our lease was up for renewal or rejection. And being Florida, it's essentially like summer here almost all year round. And this was shortly after dark. I remember it being somewhere between 9 and 9:30 p.m. I opened up the sliding glass door and stepped out, onto the back patio to enjoy just the beautiful stars and the beautiful moon, that kind of thing. And as I mentioned before, there's the pond that was at the edge of our backyard. It was only like 30 feet away, maybe 30 or 40 feet away. Yeah. And there was a lining of medium, small, and just other types of palms and fronds that surrounds the pond largely. Well, when I stepped out, of course, you scan, right? You want to make sure no one's out there. Everything is safe and well. Scanned, everything was fine. Nothing was there. No one was there. I looked up at the tree or at the sky and was just enjoying the beautiful moonlight, because I think if I remember properly, it was a full moon or right around a full moon. Lots of stars, perfectly clear sky. And when I looked back down, it wasn't because I saw any kind of movement. I just was enjoying it. There was a palm type plant / tree-ish type of thing. I don't know the names around me here. It was somewhere between 7 and 9 feet tall. And I locked eyes with a huge humanoid. The skin was incredibly like pale whitish gray. It had big reflective eyes, like a slit for a mouth. I don't remember the nose. Perfectly flat chest. I think I remember seeing it have like a little bit of definition there. No genitals, really long limbs, really long fingers, long hand bones in general. And I'm used to seeing things like this, but I'm not used to this. This felt completely different. I didn't get any sentience from this non-human animal or person. If it was a person, I don't know that I'd even call it a person, because there was nothing in the eyes that I could see that showed me any kind of sentience. There was no communication, nothing at all. This thing, it just stared at me, and it felt almost predatory. But I could not discern what was going on, and I tried to calm myself down enough to telepathically ask, what is your purpose for staring at me like this? And I couldn't do it. I usually don't have reactions like this, but I did. And I stumbled back into the house, and I fumbled with the door, getting it, slid shut, and I locked the door, and I pulled the slide blinds over. I dropped all the blinds in the house, and then I ran into the bedroom with my husband where he was. And unfortunately, the whole one wall of the bedroom faces out towards that pond, and it's all glass sliding doors. So I'm like fumbling, getting everything closed up, and I'm telling him, "Oh my God, I think it was actually hunting me." I wasn't sure. I just said, "I think it was hunting me." And it was very odd, because you know how predators will be stock still,
Yes.
That's what was going on. It didn't blink, it didn't move, it didn't talk or whistle at me. There was nothing to let me know that this person, if it was a person, was here. There was no kind of communication. It was just complete stillness and stared at me. And I don't know if it knew that I knew that it was there, and maybe what it was, until I was already like backing up into the house. So maybe my fast response protected me. I don't know, but I have never had an encounter with a non-human person, even a so-called negative one, that has been like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. It's
Yeah.
pretty intense experience right there.
It scared me so much that I dropped all of the curtains. I closed the house up every night in the middle of the golden hour. I kept track of exactly when the golden hour was, when the middle of it was. We did not go out. I wouldn't even let him go outside in the back area anymore after that point in the day, because I was so freaked out. Everything was all locked up, and I told him, if you gotta take out the trash, either tell me, I'll take it out earlier in the day, or we got to work something else out, because this may not be safe. We don't know who or what it is. There's the national, or the state forest, state park, I mean, just 10 minutes away. We have this pond. There's lots of foliage here. This is a very strange area. This was after we had, if I remember properly, after we had the Glimmerman experiences in the house, which I've never had before. We had several UFO encounters. I had that owl encounter that I was talking about.
Yeah.
There were other things too that were going on, that just, it was a very enchanted area and wild in a way that I am not used to. So,
Wow.
yeah. Nick, how are you doing over there?
Not too
Are you
good.
still with us?
Not feeling too hot, I can tell.
I'm not feeling too good. No. But I was just thinking, you moved into a house there that had sliding glass doors. That's all glass in your bedroom, and one nice sized rock, and that
Yeah,
creature, cryptid, whatever you want to call it, it's in your house. So,
exactly.
I guess it didn't want to come in bad enough.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
wanted easy access.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was intimidating. And I made sure that the blinds were pulled after that, and we just never ever messed with it after, with the black patio after that. It was bad though, and I was afraid that maybe it would pick up a rock and do something like that. So I was on Benadryl for a while for sleep after that too. To
Oh
be
wow.
honest with you, I'm not even kidding. Yeah,
Yeah, so it shook you up pretty good.
it did. I'm only like
Understandably.
5'4", and that thing was massive compared to me.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I wish I had some Benadryl right now. I mean, it makes my
Oh,
head, it makes my head, my scalp feel like there's 1,000 ants running over it, but it would put me to sleep. It would put me
yeah.
out. I haven't had a good sleep in about 2 days now.
Oh,
Well,
I
you
I'm
don't
need
know
one.
what this
sorry.
is, what this cold is, but I just got hit by it. No fever, no swollen glands, but sinus.
Yeah,
Oh man. And I'm
my
trying not to
husband's dealing
interrupt
with
you
that.
there. What I do is I mute the microphone so you folks at home don't hear me coughing too much.
Aw.
Yeah, that's one too many experiences for one person to have in a lifetime, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
It
That's
must be a
some
magnet towards it. It must like you, or they must like you.
absolutely.
That's what
Or
I
I'm
think
actually told. Yeah.
they
we
must
got to
feel
bring it back
safe.
on at some point
The problem
soon.
is the evil things out there, the bad things, what the Catholic Church would label demonic, because anything they don't understand, they label it demonic.
Demonic.
I
I
agree.
mean,
Completely
the
agree.
Yeti, what is the Yeti, Father Stugotza? And he goes, well, it's demonic. Oh, really? Oh, okay. You don't think it's a large creature of some sort? No, it's demonic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know about that.
I hear ya. Yeah, same with aliens. The Catholic Church said that anything that's not an angel they consider to be demonic, and that
Demonic.
includes the what human people would call alien races. And I don't think so at all. I think even the you could say parasitic. I do not
Right.
believe though that everything parasitic is bad, quote unquote, or out to get human people. So the way that
Sure.
I see it, um, you've heard of human people who say that they are energetic empaths, right?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Every person, whether human or not, who is an energetic empath is technically an energy vampire because they have to take in energy from situations or from other people in order to sustain their own life force. And it gets a really bad rap for people who are non-human and less physical, and that the Catholic Church calls demons. And that gets into the aliens that I was mentioning. Almost every alien line and fairy line as well, beyond the 3.5 dimension, they are, as far as I know, all or almost all energetic empath people, which means that they are energy vampires. But
Mm-hmm.
in certain circles, this is the biological norm, and they draw from the ether, not necessarily from each other. They draw from energy sources that are being um, made by like going to a party, you could say even.
Sure.
But yeah, it's very high vibrational energy, but they're still feeding off of that because their bodies don't hold physical life force like what human people do, and they can't regenerate their own life force. But that doesn't make them morally against human beings or demonic or anything.
Right.
And then because they're less physical, they also cannot stand the sunlight. It will physically kill them. And same with salt. It's very, very physical, and it creates extremely physical reactions in their bodies that human people can handle. These energetic empaths cannot. But because they don't hold their own life source and replenish their own life source, the Catholic Church and other certain groups of human people have labeled them all as being evil or bad and whatnot, and it's not the case at all in my experience.
Yeah.
Every person is an individual, in my opinion and experience. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I covered everything I wanted to say.
That was some good, excellent stuff.
Is it
Excellent. Yeah,
cool?
excellent. Very good.
I
Read.
get all of my information, by the way, from the conversations that I've had with these non-human people,
Mm-hmm.
as well as from my own experiences and the
Sure.
years of research that I've done and the interviews that I've conducted for many years now. So
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I have something to offer.
You definitely do. That's
Sure
for sure.
do.
Well, unfortunately, people, we are dead out of time.
Yep, we are.
And that doesn't it fly by?
Running out of film, but we got a lot of information out there.
Absolutely.
From the
Tillie, I can assure you, we will be asking you back on shortly.
Yes.
For a part 2 and a 3, most likely.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, Tillie will be writing articles for the Quad Coalition, and this month I have the International Dogman Project, the different sites. I'll be posting it there too, because it does deal with Dogman.
Aw, Nick.
And
you're in rough shape, buddy.
I guess our hour is up, and I gotta go take care of this cold.
All right, buddy.
Well, if I may, he may have wanted to say as well that in writing about the dog man, I've just started to write a 3-article series about dog man and cynocephaly in general. I'm splitting it up into 3 different sections. So historical accounts of cynocephaly, and then physical accounts of dog and wolf men, and then the third one will be spiritual and less physical accounts of dog man and my own conclusions after the research that I've done.
Awesome.
Can't wait for that. I'd like to see that. Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you, Tillie, if they want to reach out to you?
Yes, for sure. They can email me at either talktillie@gmail.com or theweirdwalkhome@gmail.com. And the YouTube channel that Tim Swartz and I run is available over at, of course, YouTube. Just search The Weird Walk Home and you've got it.
Awesome.
Or if you want to send her a message on Facebook Messenger, I'm quite sure you respond to the people if they really needed your help.
Indeed. Absolutely.
Indeed. Yep. Well, thanks for coming on, Tillie. It was an honor.
Really. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. The pleasure is mine as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And everybody, thank you for joining us tonight for our, what's the word I'm looking for? Our comeback episode from our couple
2024. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
We were gone for a little while there, but we're back.
Yeah, we're back in action. We will see you guys next week with another great guest. In the meantime, if you get hold of Nick or I regarding any type of cryptid stuff, get a hold of us on Messenger. We always tell people Messenger. It's the easiest way to reach either one of us. So and check out our YouTube channel at Paranormal and Cryptid Crossroads Research, and check out the IDP pages. And if you, like I said, you have any questions, we will do our best to accommodate you. So everyone have a great evening, and guys, if you could stick around for a minute afterwards, that'd be phenomenal.
Sounds great to me.
Okay.
Right, have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.